Draft season is here, which means it's time for one of my favorite conversations every year, bringing in draft expert Joe Doyle, a senior analyst with Future Stars Series. Joe, thank you so much for taking some time.
Always fun, man. I look forward to the show every year. How you doing?
Oh, doing great, doing great. It's draft season, right? Nothing to complain about there. I know you just got back from the MLB Draft Combine, so I wanted to ask about just some of your general takeaways from the draft class, what you saw at the Combine.
Yeah, I thought one of the takeaways for me, at least, was the high school shortstop class is a little bit better than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. Tyson Lewis, Wyatt Sanford, Carter Johnson, some of these guys are sneaky good bats. They've got good swings. They've definitely gotten bigger and stronger, and they're showing some raw power. And I would even go as far as to say with Lewis and Sanford, they've gotten considerably more physical over the last 8 to 9 months since I've seen them. So that really stands out. And the other part is just some of these college hitters. I mean, we didn't see the cream of the crop at the top of the board at the Combine, just because some of them were still in the College World Series and some of them just said that, hey, I got nothing left to prove. But some of the other college hitters that showed up to the Combine, man, they're physical and there's some power and there's some physicality and violence in their swings. So I'm eager to see where some of these top college bats are going to end up in this draft, because I think it's a sneaky good, not even sneaky, I think it's a pretty dang good draft for college hitters.
Well, that's what Orioles fans would like to hear, because if we know the Orioles, we know that they are probably looking very closely at some of those college bats. If there was a year that the Orioles would have loved to be at the top of the draft, maybe this would have been it, with a potentially record number of college hitters going in the top 10, but they're not there, and they're happy about that because it means they've got a better record up at the big leagues. They're sitting at 22 and 32. Can you talk about some of the depth and solid position players college-wise that we could see in that range?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of college outfielders that are going to be available to Baltimore with that 22nd and 32nd pick. We talk about the Vance Honeycutts, we talk about the Ryan Waldschmidts, the Carson Benjys, the Dakota Jordans, and I think the cool thing about this class, as it pertains to what Baltimore generally likes to do, is a lot of these guys are model darlings. We've got 70 grade defensive tools. We've got 70, 80 grade raw power tools. We've got guys with elite approaches, depending on the direction that Baltimore wants to go with their model. And they've kind of deviated a little bit here and there. I think there's going to be some guys that really fit that organization and what they've liked to do in the past. I think the biggest question mark will be, Mike Elias is still there. He is still running the show. He is still pulling the levers at the top of the draft. But with Brad Selick now in Washington, how much does that change? Is there any tinkering that goes in to what their draft selection might be near the top of the draft? And like I mentioned earlier, while those college hitters are really strong and they are going to link nicely with Baltimore, I can't help but look at some of the high school shortstops in this class. Like I mentioned, the Lewises, the Sanfords, the Theo Gillans. I think there's some high school hitters that, along the same lines as what Baltimore targeted in Gunnar Henderson, they could see some of those traits in some of those players that are going to be available at 22 and 32 as well. So those would be the two demographics that I certainly have my eye on.
Well, you mentioned a couple of college outfielders that I do want to ask you about, but you brought up one intriguing high school name that we've seen in a lot of mock drafts, and that's Theo Gillan. Can you talk about his profile a little bit?
Yeah, Gillan, for my money, and I think most would agree, he's the third best high school bat in this class. You got your Connor Griffins, you got your Bryce Rainers. But after that, it's really a bit of a crapshoot. For me, I think it is Theo Gillan. Gillan's got a plus hit tool. He sprays the ball all over the yard. He got more physical. He got stronger. It's a ton of pull side raw power. I think the question with Gillan, and this is what every organization is asking themselves right now, where's he going to play? He has had some shoulder ailments in the past. He's probably not going to be a shortstop at the next level, but is it second base? Is it left field? You probably start him off in center field, see if he can survive out there with his plus run tool. But either way, you're buying the bat. And I think it's probably safe to say it is the third best pure hit tool on the high school side. I think someone will do well with drafting him in the middle of day one.
Yeah, and if the Orioles do go the high school route, I think Gillan makes a lot of sense there. His profile matches up well with what the Orioles like to do. But you did mention 3 college outfielders that really mesh well with Baltimore's draft philosophy from the past few years. I want to start with Vance Honeycutt, where it's a 70 grade defense potentially. He's got great speed, the question marks come with the bat. Can you talk about the North Carolina product?
Yeah, well, the question marks do start with the bat. They really end with the bat. The precedent, the historical references that you can go to with guys that have strikeout rates and swing and miss concerns like Honeycutt does are not kind to Vance Honeycutt. They are not the best guys that have transitioned from college to the pro game. Now, I will say there is one outlier. Jordan Westburg, actually. Jordan Westburg had a pretty high strikeout rate. He had a pretty high swing and miss rate at Mississippi State, I believe. That was probably 2019. Baltimore has done a really nice job with a swing change there, and they've turned him into a very, very good pro, if you want to call him a prospect. He's a good player. Maybe they believe they can do the same thing with Honeycutt. But the thing with Honeycutt, the thing that he has that Jordan Westburg didn't innately have in college, Vance Honeycutt has a ton of raw power. I mean, it's top shelf exit velocities. It's 53 career homers in the ACC. Like, the guy has proven that he can hit the ball out of the ballpark, and he can do it to left center and he can do it to right center, but it is well below average contact rates. There is a ton of swing and miss on the slider. That is going to have to be something that the Baltimore Orioles are comfortable and confident with developing at the next level if Vance Honeycutt is going to be their guy, but he checks every single box imaginable so much as you believe you can turn him into at least a fringy hitter at the big league level.
Well, if they get another Jordan Westburg type of hitter, I think the Orioles would take that every day of the week. Two more guys I want to touch on, two players that are really analytical darlings. The metrics really like them, and that's Ryan Waldschmidt and Carson Benjy. Let's start with Waldschmidt. There's basically no chase to his game. He has a very advanced approach at the plate. Can you talk about the kind of hitter that Waldschmidt is?
Yeah, Waldschmidt went from a guy, I had Waldschmidt as a first rounder going into last fall. He then hurt his knee on the Cape, and it really limited him this winter. He got onto the field 3 or 4 weeks late this season. Waldschmidt has done nothing but rake, and he has continued to climb from a third-round guy to a second-round guy to now a guy that, frankly, might not even be there for the Orioles at pick 22. But if he is there, he really checks every analytical box that you could look at. And we know the Baltimore Orioles are very analytically driven. They're a model-driven team. Waldschmidt has elite-level contact rates. He has elite-level chase rates. He hits the ball as hard as just about anyone that you're going to find in the first round outside of a couple of outlets. The thing with Waldschmidt that I think is a little bit of a hesitation for some is he's probably a left fielder at the next level. And, teams are generally not in a huge rush to draft corner outfielders with their first pick. And I think Baltimore would certainly be included into that bucket. And the other thing is he's right-handed. Right-handed hitters generally don't go quite as high as the left-handed sluggers in any first-round draft. But I don't know what more Ryan Waldschmidt could do outside of try and hit the ball from the other side of the plate. He's just an extremely advanced hitter who should be one of those types of guys in this draft who moves very quickly through a minor league system.
Yeah, so Waldschmidt kind of checks all the boxes in terms of an advanced plate approach that the Orioles might look at. Another guy who does a similar thing is Carson Benjy. He's a left-handed hitting outfielder, checks a lot of similar boxes in terms of contact rate, chase rate. Tell me a little bit about Benjy.
Yeah, Benjy is along the same lines. Like, it is elite whiff rates. It is elite swing decisions. It is even more so than Waldschmidt. With Benjy, it is borderline elite bat speed. I mean, the guy hits the hell out of the baseball. The thing is, the only difference with Benjy is he hits the ball on the ground a lot. And that's why you're not going to see those gaudy home run totals that you'll see from Vance Honeycutt and Dakota Jordan and some of these more prototypical sluggers. He just isn't lifting the baseball. So along the same lines as Honeycutt, if you're the Baltimore Orioles, you see the swing decisions, you see the walks, you see the ability to put the ball in play. If you think you can generate a little bit more backspin and you can loft the ball without totally losing who Carson Benjy is, ultimately, he's probably a slightly better prospect than Ryan Waldschmidt because he just makes all of the right sound decisions between the ears.
A lot of solid college bats in this range. Seems like a really good year for the Orioles to have 2 picks in the top 32. But Joe, we appreciate the excellent insight as always. Tell us where we can find some of your draft content.
Yeah, so you can find my stuff on Twitter and X at Joe Doyle MILB, but all my writing, all my boards, all my mock drafts, everything is going to be at futurestarseries.com.
Joe Doyle, a senior analyst at Future Star Series. Thank you so much for your insight. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.